So basically, I characterize our humor in three broad categories. One is character dependent. The second one is post-grad sophomoric, which if that is not a coined term already, I would like to take this instance to coin it. The third one is cliche deconstruction. Now, character dependent is our influence from The Simpsons. That we have a great deal of characters and the humor comes out of those characters. Humor is not created by convenience. Characters are themselves, which necessitates a large cast. There's basically 15 main recurring characters in the Professor Hobo universe, but I think one time we tried to count them up, and this is probably a couple years ago, and we had over 100 characters that had appeared at some point multiple times. So we actually have quite a huge cast and everything. So here's an example of character-dependent humor. This is two of our professor characters, Evilbeard and Dr. Clownus. Dr. Clownus is our German language professor.
Hey.
So you can see the two of them are working on the copier machine, which you're all quite familiar with, at least in this department, having to fight with and everything. So they're working on the copier machine, and the copier machine is broken, and being college professors, they have no idea what to do, how to fix it themselves. So their only resource is to call the secretary and see if she can fix it for them. But again, being professors, they're a little bit lazy to go down and get the secretary themselves, so they end up calling a third professor to see if he knows how to get a hold of the secretary for them. So again, if we take two other characters and throw them into this position, it wouldn't be the same joke. It's dependent on it being those particular characters. So this is a script that we ran for Valentine's Day where we thought, what if we took two of our characters and put them in a Victoria's Secret? What would happen? So we took Rick, he's the one in the red shirt. Rick is sort of our kind of doofus character. And Jimmy, who is sort of our shy, reserved student character. And we said, what's going to happen if we put the two of them in there? So you can see that Jimmy really just desperately wants to get out of the store. He wants nothing more than just to buy a Valentine's gift and get out. Rick is more sort of goofing off and everything and embarrassing him along the way. But again, the humor comes from it being these two characters. It wouldn't be the same, wouldn't be as embarrassing for the professor characters or adult characters to be in the situation. And if we took other student characters like Trey and Tom, for example, and put them into the situation, then the humor would be completely different based on their personalities. So post-grad sophomoric. Well, this is our Monty Python influence. So if you can have people who graduate from Oxford doing fart jokes, then that's sort of the mindset with this and everything. So for many educated people, they feel shameful laughing at crude humor. And I know this is true because I hear my colleagues all the time say, I find this really, really funny, but I'm ashamed to admit it to anyone. And because of that, crude jokes must play on two levels, inviting plausible deniability. One of the ways that we look at it is this is a way to keep ourselves from getting in trouble with our mothers. If they happen to ever pick up one of the strips or one of the cartoons and watch it, that they can't, we can always say, wait, no, that's not what we meant. So in this strip, we have Jimmy on a date with his girlfriend, Amanda, and you see they're happy and everything. In the second panel, you can see that there's a protrusion in poor Jimmy's pants. And it's basically the setup, the old classic setup, is that a banana in your pocket or are you just happy to see me? And in the third panel he pulls out, no, it's a Harry Potter wand. It's nothing. But we give you the last line from Amanda where she says, did you bring me one too, while she's looking down? Which gives you that sort of plausible deniability as an audience. You can interpret it one of two ways. Is it because she notices something, or is it because she just really is hoping he brought her a wand so she can get into the movie too? What we always like to say to people when they ask us, they say, is that joke really supposed to be dirty? our response is always that we think the humor in Professor Hobo and how people react to it always says far more about our audience members than it does us. Because the people who interpret it dirty think it's dirty and the other people don't. This is a strip that we did recently. Most of our professors are English professors. And because of that, we tend to have a lot of grammar jokes, and which probably very limits our audience. But in this particular one, they're reviewing an essay on an overhead projector in class, and Megan is being told by the female professor in the first panel that a semicolon would not go here. And then Megan has her long rant in the second panel, which is not only grammatically correct, but she uses a semicolon correctly in the middle of it. So it's one of those sort of jokes that only people really into grammar would appreciate. So she gives her whole long rant here and everything. And then in the third panel, Rick is answering a question. But we leave it up to the audience, whose question is he answering? Is he answering the professor's question from the first panel, which is an accurate answer? Or is he answering Megan's question from the second panel, which is a little bit more shady of an answer? So again, leaving it up to the audience how they want to interpret it. The third type is cliche deconstruction. And it's simply not about flipping the convention, but tearing it down. Humor isn't found in simply pointing out the cliche. Look, a woman is running late. Humor is found in dissecting the cliche until you found what makes it tick. So where a lot of humor now is trying to go out and push the boundaries, always get more edgy, always do something, be a little dirtier, be a little more controversial or something. We find that a lot of humor comes from looking back at what's always been funny, but trying to look at it from a new perspective, or figuring out what about it was funny in the first place. So at this strip here, this example we have is basically the classic a priest, a nun, and a rabbi walk into a bar setup and everything. But to us, that's not really that funny. I mean, there's no punchline that you can really do to that joke anymore that's still funny and everything. Everybody's heard that different variances of that joke 100 times. So in the third panel, we're left with the characters staring out at the audience and the audience staring out. We sort of break the fourth wall. And it's that sort of breaking of what you expect, that punchline in that third panel, that classic setup of a punchline for the third panel of the comic strip, and the lack of the punchline for that classic joke that the humor comes from. This is one of the professors meeting with the president of the university. His name is President Tsar. Tsar being the Russian word for king, because at the time when we were students doing this originally, our university president was actually named President King Alexander, which we thought was the most ridiculous thing ever, that he had two titles. So we named this character after him, so he's now known as President Tsar. So in this one, they're having this normal conversation about something going on campus and everything. And then in the second panel, in the middle of it, he drops this reference to Lipton brand iced tea. And then in the third panel, she actually draws his attention. Did you just product place in the middle of our discussion, in the middle of this conversation? And his response there is sort of the joke where it's sort of breaking with convention and everything. Because he starts talking about the students themselves being free radicals, which the language there is accurate. These students would be radicals and everything. But if you've ever actually picked up a package of Lipton brand iced tea, on the package it actually uses these terms, free radicals and flavonoids and all this. So at that point it starts breaking up about what's he actually talking about. Is he actually doing a product placement, or is he actually responding to her and the conversation?